We'll get started. Well, hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today, where we will talk about how you can optimize your travel spend management with SAP Concur and Alteryx. Let's start with a brief introduction of today's speakers. My name is Christoph Schuler. I'm the General Manager for Theobald Software based here in Seattle.
Hi everyone, Scott Pattinson. I manage our ISV and OEM partner programs. Like Christoph, I'm also based in the Seattle office.
Hello everyone, I'm Brian Smoot II, Technical Account Manager with Theobald Software. I'm based out in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, let's take a look at today's agenda. We'll briefly introduce Theobald Software if you haven't heard of us, just a quick company overview, followed by SAP Concur. What is SAP Concur? Why do customers like to work with it? And then we also talk about some common challenges that we're hearing from some of our customers and users as it relates to data access in SAP Concur and analyzing data from SAP Concur. We will introduce our solution, Xtract for SAP Concur, and we will finish with a Q&A where you can ask your questions. So this whole content will take about 30 to 40 minutes, roughly. So let's get started. Scott, I'll turn it over to you to give a brief overview of who we are.
Yeah, thanks, Christoph. So Theobald Software was founded in 2004, so we've been in existence for 20 plus years. We are an ISV, an independent software vendor. We specialize in SAP integration, SAP data management solutions. To be specific, we don't have professional services and we're not a GSI, very much focused on creating and providing software solutions. We have about 60 employees worldwide, spread across two primary offices in Stuttgart, Germany, and here in Seattle. In the US, currently we have about 3,500 active SAP customers, and we work with around 200 partners in various functions. You can flip to the next slide, Christoph. Yeah, so quickly about Theobald Software and our solutions. Why do we partner with? Why are partners interested in Theobald, and why we had the success we've had with customers? Just briefly, for me, there's a lot of factors, but for me, the easy factor, it's one of the reasons I joined the company. As someone who's been in the SAP space a long time, the extraction of data before solutions like ours existed was very difficult, expensive, and very time consuming. So for me, the easy part is the part that's really appealed to me. Christoph, I know you've had a lot of experience working with customers. What do you hear from customers in terms of Theobald Software and why customers implement it?
Yeah, I think all of these are relevant and things we hear, and we're happy to hear, of course. But I would highlight maybe two or three more. One is fast time to solution, meaning customers don't have to spend months, or in some cases years, to put in the solution. Most customers actually, with our solutions, not just for Concur, what we're talking about today, but in general for our other SAP connectivity solutions, they will see results in days typically, or a short number of weeks. The other one that I think is really relevant for what we're presenting today in the context of Concur is the automation capability. So it takes out manual effort, so you don't have to go through your data preparation or data analysis in a very manual way each time. The tools we work in allow you to fully automate that. So you can have your weekly analysis or your monthly analysis of expense data, as we will see later on in the demo. And the last one I would highlight here is certified. We're an SAP certified solution for integration with all key SAP environments, in particular SAP ECC and S/4HANA. So with that, let's dive into SAP Concur. This is something brand new. We're actually showcasing today a very new integration option in our portfolio. Let's talk a little bit about what SAP Concur is. SAP Concur is a leading solution for integrated expense and travel management. And I know, Scott, in your professional career, you told me you've used Concur quite a bit. As a user, what would you say are some of the key advantages for why companies deploy and use SAP Concur?
Yeah, sure, Christoph. So yeah, first of all, I've been using Concur for, I would say, almost 20 years across 4 different companies. So I'm very familiar with SAP Concur. From an end user perspective, for me as someone who's traveled extensively pretty much throughout that time period, the mobile support is something that's great. I can take a photo of a receipt, for example, capture it on the go, and that's it. I can kind of forget about it. So I don't have to sit at the end of my trip and go through piles of receipts and file them away in an expense system. Secondly, the other key thing for an end user like myself is a single entry. So I capture that receipt, make the required annotations to the expense, and I'm done. It's integrated, in this case, with SAP and with the accounting system, and everything flows from there. So from an end user perspective, I think it's a super effective tool. So Christoph, with that though, there's obviously the analytics and the reporting, and I think there's some key advantages to using Concur as well. Maybe you can take the audience through those.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. So, with all these key advantages and certainly Concur being a very popular offering in the market, I think some customers and users also have some challenges in certain areas. Some users feel the user experience is perhaps lacking a little bit, or can be tedious at times to work with. Also, the built-in reporting is in some ways limited. It gives you some canned reports for most common scenarios or use cases, but there's really no ability to do some advanced data modeling or analytics within the tool. In some cases, it's also difficult to get a more comprehensive view of your business spend area. For instance, if you would look for sales opportunities, for instance, to tie those to what am I spending on a sales opportunity because I travel to a customer or I travel to a conference, all of that helps me maybe close my sales opportunity. It would sure be nice if I could combine those 2 data sources, maybe sales data from Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, together with my spend data that I have captured in Concur. So for that, you need to really bring the data out from multiple systems, combine it in a tool that allows you to do that. And we will show that in a moment, how that can actually be done quite well in a tool like Alteryx. Other things users have mentioned in the past is system performance can at times be a little bit sluggish. And users ultimately, they really prefer to work in their tool of choice when it comes to how they want to analyze their data. And so tools like Power BI, perhaps Tableau, and also Alteryx, which we will showcase in a moment, play an important role. And so that's where our solution, Xtract SAP Concur, comes into play. On this diagram here, you see just a simple representation of how the solution works. With Xtract SAP Concur, we have at the moment an embedded solution in Alteryx that connects directly to the SAP Concur cloud environment. This gives the business user or the finance user or an audit user direct access to expense data, both at the expense report as well as the expense report detail level. And because we're hosted in the Alteryx environment, this gives you powerful data preparation, blend capabilities with other data sources, and also powerful analytics capabilities. Alteryx is a great tool for that. You can also automate this process, as mentioned earlier, so you don't have to manually go in, manipulate the Alteryx workflow each time. You can fully automate and run your analytics on expense data on a regular basis, weekly or monthly, for instance. Also, with Alteryx, you have the capability to export your data. You can show the results in Power BI. You could also send the results to a data lake or a data warehouse type environment if that's where you need the data. All of this, I think, translates to a fast and efficient, also user-friendly way to analyze your spend data, and ultimately providing the users with better insights and compliance. So now we've talked a lot about how this tool works and how we see the solution being beneficial to our customers. Let's take a look at how it works in action. I'm going to turn it over to Brian for that.
Excellent. I appreciate that, Christophe. So I'm going to walk everyone through 3 real-world challenges that finance and travel managers face and how our Xtract SAP Concur helps solve them effortlessly. So as we see on the screen here, we have 3 users. First one will be David. David relies on SAP Concur Expense for reporting, but he suddenly noticed that his annual budget has been exceeded and he lacks critical answers as to why. So for David, we're going to be detecting how employee expense compliant issues evolve and how we can identify that. Next will be with Mia as a sustainability-focused travel manager who entrusts in SAP Concur for handling business travel expenses. Mia is just trying to validate that her company travel data is discovered and in which way are they taking trips throughout the year. And last but not least for Lisa, she regularly monitors travel expenses, but she has no visibility into the supplier spending patterns, especially hotel bookings. So that'd be validated for supplier cost management. So as I go ahead and share my screen within the Alteryx workflow, we'll be able to showcase how we go about automating these processes. So again, each scenario highlights a common pain point that these companies struggle with, and we're going to get into how we can enable better decision-making, not only with automation, as I stated earlier, but also with analytics. So let's go ahead and dive in. So this will be the Alteryx Designer. You can find our SAP Concur tool here under the SAP Concur extractor if you follow my mouse. And you can drag and drop our component down to start extracting directly from SAP Concur. As Christophe stated earlier, the tool provides direct access to expense reports and detailed expense data. So on your screen here, you see 4 or 5 different container boxes. The first one that we're going to go through on the left-hand side represents the Concur Expense container. So this will represent the container that holds different Alteryx components that extracts the data from SAP, aggregates it, and analyzes it with additional components that you see here. For the other boxes and containers, they essentially just use various Alteryx components just to validate our story, ensuring that the extracted data is structured, analyzed, as well as visualized effectively for meaningful insights as we get through it.
And Brian, if I may ask a question here, these boxes, the little boxes you see on the screen, these are standard Alteryx components that help with the data preparation.
Correct.
Once it's extracted from SAP Concur.
Correct. And you can utilize any of these standard components in any workflow that you build. Just for the sake of this demo, we're showcasing this one. So as we get into our first challenge for David, I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. It's for detecting employee spend violations at an early stage. I apologize. So previously, David had to manually export, aggregate, and analyze data, which can be a very time-consuming, error-prone process. David needed a solution that would automate the oversight and provide immediate visibility into the spending violations. Specifically, David wanted to know which employees are consistently overspending beyond a specific threshold, $15,000 per quarterly limit, and he didn't have the visibility into that. So the problem is that the budget overruns and goes unnoticed. So with SAP Concur, it doesn't automatically track total spending per employee per quarter. And also the lack of visibility and manual effort, these financial teams must manually export, analyze the data, and that leads to increasing the risk of errors. Another thing that we tried to identify within not only identifying the violations at an early stage, it was unclear if the approval, return, or rejection process within these reporting was we even had insights into it. So how could we validate what we are spending if or the spending patterns if we don't know if the approval status remains unclear? So that's some things that we just wanted to validate. So those are the problems that we're looking at. And in regards to the solution, as we jump into our browse component, again, as Christoph stated, a standard component, we can bring up a dashboard that validates all of this in real time. So with our solution, Xtract SAP Concur, it transforms this process. So now we have an automated insight. So the workflow aggregates and analyzes this expense data for us in real time. We can now have instant alerts on these violations. So as you can see here, any employee that exceeds that $15,000 quarterly limit is immediately flagged. As we can see here for the quarterly limit, looks like all of the employees have passed that threshold. So it's easily visible for us. In regards to the approval status and tracking, the finance teams now gain visibility into the status of each report and ensuring that if it's either returned or rejected, it's properly addressed. As we go into the approval status, we can then now see with any type of graphic or dashboard that you choose, we have 87% of our reports approved, just over 10% return, and a little bit more than 2% were rejected. So now,
and Brian,
instead of these spreadsheets,
just Brian, one more comment here. So this way of looking at the data in a more graphical way, that's just one of the very flexible analytics capabilities that Alteryx gives me. I could also look at this, of course, in plain numbers and text and export that data to really any place where I would need it.
Exactly, without the spreadsheet. So David now has a clear automated view of these expenses as well as the reports that are submitted. So you may ask why this matters, right? So now you have no more surprises at the end of the quarter. So it's early detection of the spending violations. Again, these financial teams can gain insights into the tracking rather than having to export and merge and track in Excel. And then it reduces compliance risks and improves for financial oversight. So this isn't specifically just about saving time. It's about gaining proactive financial control and reducing compliance risk. Let's go ahead and segue to the next challenge. And this will be for Mia, as we stated, more of the ESG compliant travel optimization. So Mia previously lacked the ability to deeply analyze travel patterns, this making it impossible to identify cost-saving and alternatives to meet environmental, social, and governance compliance goals. So this brings up the question, where are the real opportunities to optimize travel costs and sustainability efforts? So the problem, limited insights, again, from SAP Concur. So the tool tracks travel bookings, but it lacks a deep analysis of the cost as well as CO2 emissions. It gains for a high proportion of air travel. So without this visualization that we have here, and I'll showcase in a second, the environmental and financial impact of the travel choices remain unclear when it comes to ESG. And it was incomplete data which made it difficult to establish sustainability efforts or driven policies. So as I open up, again, the browse tool to validate our configuration and look at the dashboard that we have solved, Mia now has a clear look into how her company is setting up travel arrangements. And we can see here just about 90% of it is through airfare. So again, now we are able to provide a detailed travel comparison. Mia can now see the ratio within a user-friendly dashboard and has clear insights that she can implement for not only a greener, but more cost-effective travel policy plan. So now we have full transparency into the CO2 emissions to support sustainability efforts. We now spend less time on manual data aggregation, more time spent on strategic improvements. And most importantly, Mia now has a complete visibility into the patterns. So she has now discovered that it's 90% travel by air. This insight will be viable for her to make decisions. And this newfound transparency would allow her to optimize her travel spending moving forward. All of this makes for informed decisions, and it's all backed by data, real-time data, rather than assumptions that she was operating with before. And last but not least, we're going to get into Lisa. Specifically, with Lisa is for supplier and cost management. Let me just scroll all the way down so you all can see. And with Lisa, SAP Concur captures all of her bookings in general, but without a systematic evaluation, Lisa couldn't identify opportunities for cost savings or negotiations. So which vendors are most frequently used within our company, and where is there room for negotiations is the question that Lisa's asking. So what's at stake? So the lack of supplier transparency. So SAP Concur records these transactions, but it doesn't analyze supplier usage trends. This leads to missed negotiation opportunities. Without this insight, Lisa doesn't know where to push for better rates, and which rates that she can try to validate or verify. And also it's very time consuming with the manual reports, as she has to now identify supplier patterns, and that can also require a lot of manual work on her end to do so. So the solution, Xtract, SAP Concur, and Alteryx solves this. All of these solutions that we give with this tool will automate this process. So again, it won't be a lot of manual tasks on your side to do so. Specifically for Lisa, and the results that we can showcase is that she can now see which vendors make up the majority of the bookings that she has. As I bring up the dashboard that we have, she can now identify the vendor descriptions, the sum total of the vendors, and what are they spending per month, quarter, etc., all by filtering through our tool. So Lisa now has a clear visualization to the top five suppliers and highlights the opportunities for cost savings. Excuse me. Why this matters. Now that she's able to leverage the supplier insights, she has better negotiation power to move forward. All of this is backed by data-driven information, so decisions are based on real usage patterns, not guesswork. And the instant analytics mean no more time-consuming Excel spreadsheets for Lisa moving forward. So now that Lisa has this comprehensive supplier overview, it's no more hidden spending patterns for her. She can quickly identify that more than 40% of the hotel bookings were made, and she should be good to go. Now that her company is able to save more money, she can optimize more contracts, reducing the operational overhead, all thanks to clear, actionable insights. And that'll be the third challenge that we just went over. So as we've covered these three challenges within travel expense management and how our SAP Extractor alongside Alteryx and the various Alteryx components can help businesses stay ahead of these financial risks, enhance ESG reporting, also optimize vendor relationships, all while reducing the manual work. So it's not just about efficiency, it's more so about empowering the financial teams to make smarter and data-driven decisions with confidence. So we all thank you for your time today. If you have any questions or want to explore next steps, please feel free to reach out. What I'm going to do now is hand it back over to Christophe to go more into how we can get started.
Thanks, Brian. And I really think what you just showed us also shows, the flexibility and analytical capabilities of Alteryx. This is quite different than downloading Concur data into Excel and working in an Excel spreadsheet. It really gives you a lot of flexibility. We also talked about merging that data with other data sources earlier, from a CRM system, from all kinds of other sources. So you have that gives you a lot of analytics capabilities, and expense data is very important. A lot of companies have this as one of the main cost items on their balance sheet. So I think just making sure they can control that cost and use it in different use case scenarios, as you outlined, is really critical.
The possibilities are endless with these two tools.
Cool. So now let's open it up for Q&A. I would also invite you to join our Concur pilot project. With the pilot project, we will provide you with early access to this SAP Concur integration solution that you saw today. Please, after this webinar, check your email with additional information for how to join that project. So we have a few questions that I would like to get to now. So a few were posted already. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A area in the webinar control. The first question is around, is this solution only available for Alteryx, or can it also be used in Xtract IS or Xtract Universal? These are some of our other tools that we didn't go into much detail today. But yes, we decided to start with Alteryx because of the analytics capabilities that the Alteryx platform offers. But we also are thinking about adding this functionality into our other Xtract tools. Xtract Universal is a great tool to replicate data from any SAP source into cloud data platforms, where customers then can further utilize and work with that data and share that data. And so we're looking at that. We'd love to get your feedback on that as well. So that's why it's important for you to join the pilot project and get in touch with us.
Yeah, I want to second the notion of joining the pilot project. One of the key things we want out of this is feedback from customers like all of you are attending. Super important for us. So there's a second question here as well. Christoph, it's probably for you, and it's, does this function work with Alteryx Cloud or only with the Alteryx Designer desktop? And if so, could the workflow be published into Alteryx Cloud using the Alteryx plan?
Yeah, at the moment, this is available for Alteryx Designer and Alteryx Server because it's a plugin into those two tools. But again, this is the first step that we're taking into Concur connectivity, and we're thinking about expanding that, including into areas like Alteryx Cloud. But as of right now, it's Alteryx Designer and Server.
Okay, great. One more question here. Another question here. How does data security work with SAP Concur? How easy, difficult is it to set up?
Brian, you want to take that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's not difficult at all to set up. All you would need is a client ID as well as a client secret key. In regards to how it works, it's more in the context of the SAP user. Like all of our other tools that were asked earlier in regards to our Xtract tool suite, same way. We always enter in regards to the context of SAP user to be able to connect to these SAP systems.
Great, thanks, Brian. Any other questions from our audience? One that we get frequently in the webinars has been asked today is around performance. What do we know about performance and how this particular solution, SAP Xtract for Concur, may or may not affect our performance of our SAP systems?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. It's always relevant because there's a lot of data typically in SAP source systems, not just in ERP, but also in systems like Concur. You know, there's companies that use this solution for hundreds or thousands of their employees. That adds up to a lot of data, especially at the detail level, which we talked about earlier. We not just pull the data at the expense header level or the expense report level, but at the detail level. Every line item you can basically look at and analyze with this tool. So we're always looking for the most optimal way, the most optimal API or integration point with the SAP system. And our initial testing has been quite positive in terms of how that performs. The other thing that's crucial always is to give the users filter capabilities to limit the data set that they extract from the SAP system. So you're not always pulling the whole data, but maybe for a date range, or maybe for a range of employees, or for an expense category. So that's also enabled in the tool, that filtering capability in the source.
Great, thanks, Christoph. Any other questions from our audience? I see that we've covered the questions that have been entered and asked to date. Anything further that we can answer?
Okay, good. Well then, I want to thank everyone for attending this webinar. And we'd love to hear your feedback. So you will see an email in your inbox. So feel free to reach back out to us if you have more questions or would like to join the pilot project. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, everyone.